to us as it is to the community.
A woman attacked at a popular city park.
Tonight, the hunt for a suspect after a sexual assault inside High Park, the investigation and the concern for public safety. Good evening. The details are terrifying. A woman dragged into a wooded area and sexually assaulted last night. A
heavy police presence remains in High Park this hour. Officers issuing a public safety alert. CTV's John Musselman joins us live from the scene near Parkside Drive and Howard Park Avenue. John.
Well, that's right, Natalie. As you can see behind me, police have set up a command center. And of course, people who use the park are expressing concerns about this, that this attacker may still be out there. Toronto police conducted a search inside High Park today for a possible suspect or any evidence in connection with a violent sexual assault last night. A woman was dragged into a wooded area on the east side of the park near Parkside Drive and Howard Park Avenue. It happened around 10:40 p.m. Police say the victim was walking on a paved pathway when she was attacked from behind and sexually assaulted. The victim was able to get away from the suspect and seek help from a passerby who called 911. News of the assault has park users worried about safety.
It's just like quite scary too, because it's like I've known this place just like a nice place to go with every day.
Concerning, I walk alone through this park often, so not a good sign.
It's still quite unsettling, even if it's at night.
Come here like twice per day, and I never saw anything that would concern me in any way.
Very concerning to us as it is to the community. And these incidents are always a priority for the police to investigate and to be able to identify the suspects in these matters and to be able to bring them to justice.
Investigators say the victim sustained non-life-threatening injuries in the attack. The suspect is described by police as 30 to 40 years old with a slim, athletic build. He was last seen wearing a T-shirt and dark-colored pants. And there will be a police presence here at the park tonight. Again, for safety precaution, police are advising people if you're walking in the park at night, try to pair up until police can make an arrest. Reporting on the live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Okay, thank you, John. Next to a scary scene in the Black Creek and Weston area.
A child fell from the 10th floor of a high-rise building this afternoon. Police say the 6-year-old boy fell from the window on the 10th floor of the high-rise on Humber Boulevard around 2 o'clock this afternoon. He was rushed to hospital by paramedics with serious injuries. His condition is considered critical this evening. The circumstances surrounding the boy's fall remain under investigation. And there's more fallout tonight over a mass shooting that claimed the life of one man and injured 5 others.
Today, Toronto's mayor and chief of police met with members of the community shaken by the gun violence. CTV's Janice Golding is live at the Lawrence Heights Community Center with the latest. Janice.
Hi, Natalie. Yes, politicians and police met with concerned area residents here at the Lawrence Heights Community Center to discuss exactly what they're concerned about and to offer some reassurance. A tiny teddy bear and some candles. The only outward sign anything amiss took place near this Toronto community housing complex 2 nights ago. A mass shooting that claimed the life of a man in a wheelchair, injured 5 others, and wounded the community as a whole.
Feeling that grief in that community when someone they know or someone they love is shot on the wheelchair, it's very impacting.
Today, the mayor and chief of police met with area residents at the Lawrence Heights Community Center.
What I heard was a sense of frustration around, the system and how concerned the community is about people returning into the community after facing very serious charges.
The chief and others reiterating a call for meaningful legal reform.
No matter how hard the police work, how hard the programs are, if we don't get the federal government and the provincial government to wake up and start having a realistic criminal justice system, we're not going to fix this problem.
There's no question nerves are frayed in the area. The shootings happened around 8:30 on a warm spring night while many people were out and about.
And I heard bam, bam, bam. And my daughter said, it's too early for firecrackers, it's not a holiday. So we came outside and my granddaughter said, Mommy is shot. go back inside.
My roommate was actually out and she was actually in the gym, so I actually called her, I said are you okay? And she said I'm okay. So basically I was very frightened to see that happen.
Still, while many are alarmed, today's community meeting was sparsely attended.
I have made a commitment to come back in June because right now some of the community members are too traumatized to come out to meet.
Meetings, however, are meaningless, say community advocates, without change.
Many organizations in the city of Toronto have been speaking directly as youth and young people, telling the city, if you want to see this stop, this is what you can do. Unfortunately, we're met with more press conferences, more meetings, and unfortunately, more lives lost. Now, CTV News learned this afternoon that a worker from this community center was actually injured in the mass shooting. We are told that they were on their way home from work, which is just a couple minutes away from the scene, when they were injured. Reporting live from Janice Golding, now back to Sean.
Thank you, Janice. Still to come tonight, an infant who was born prematurely and infected with measles has died in southwestern Ontario. What the province's chief medical officer of health is saying about the risk of the disease.
But first, let's go outside on this Thursday evening for a live look at the city. A special air quality statement is in effect for Toronto right now as wildfire smoke drifts through the air. You can see just how gray it is, making it awfully hazy out there right now. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Jess.
And these wildfire conditions are really affecting a good portion of the country as we head from coast to coast to coast. Now, we're looking at heavier smoke through northern Ontario, but it's impacting us here in the south as well. We do have those statements in place, as Natalie mentioned. We get a little bit of a break over the weekend, but another round comes in as we head in towards Monday and Tuesday of next week. And this is all thanks to wind direction. Our thoughts with everybody who has been impacted by the wildfires. Again, it is widespread between the warnings and the statements, but it is impacting almost everybody. So if you do have breathing challenges, limit your time outdoors over the next few days. And for us here in the city, this is carrying through until at least tomorrow morning. We'll keep an eye on the statements, though, and if they have any movement. We saw some showers earlier on today. Those pushed out. Behind it, just some cloud cover. Temperature-wise, very seasonal. 20 right now, feeling like 25, and we're all contending with a bit of a humidex. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast. We'll look into your weekend. But for now, I'll send things back over to Natalie and Sean.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. Well, there has been a devastating development in the measles outbreak in Ontario.
A premature baby has died. Health officials believe the infant contracted the illness from their mother before birth. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan has the details.
The statement from Dr. Kieran Moore reads, "It is with deep sadness that I confirm that an infant born prematurely and infected with measles has tragically passed away in southwestern Ontario. The infant contracted the virus before birth from their mother who had not received the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine." He continues, "While measles may have been a contributing factor in both the premature birth and death, the infant also faced other serious medical complications unrelated to the virus. Out of respect for the family's privacy, no further personal or medical details will be shared." This afternoon, Dr. Moore said,
"There were other comorbidities associated with this child's passing. I don't want to give any personal health information. It was certainly a complex medical condition that the family was dealing with."
Adding there will be no further investigation. The latest data shows almost 1,800 confirmed cases of measles in Ontario in 2025, with more than 250 suspected cases. Toronto has seen 7 lab-confirmed cases in 2025. The MMR vaccine contains a live virus, so pregnant women and those who are immunocompromised can't receive it.
So it's very important that people receive their routine childhood immunizations or are vaccinated before they're pregnant.
If an unvaccinated pregnant person is exposed to measles, an infusion of immunoglobulin may be given to protect the baby. In Ontario, the measles shot is usually administered to babies at 12 months of age, with the second dose given at about 4 years. Doctors are now suggesting babies as young as 6 months can get vaccinated, especially if they might be traveling out of the country or in an area of higher risk. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Meantime, a new report is shedding light on the devastating impacts of the opioid crisis in Ontario.
It comes from the province's chief coroner, underscoring the number of people who have died due to the drug. CTV's Beth McDonnell reports.
Despite a recent drop in opioid toxicity deaths in Ontario, they've tripled in the last decade.
And they all died at a relatively young age. and from what would be recognized as a preventable cause of death.
In 2015, there were 728 deaths. In 2024, more than 2,200 lives lost. It's a decrease of 15% from more than 2,600 deaths in 2023 and the peak of deaths that we saw in 2021 during the pandemic at close to 2,900. The latest deaths making up more than 10% of all the sudden and unexpected deaths the chief coroner investigates.
And that's a substantial number, 21,000 deaths we investigate per year.
In March, the Ontario government ordered the closure of 10 consumption sites within 200 meters of schools and daycares. It's moving forward with more of a treatment-focused model of care. It says since 2018, it's brought 500 treatment beds online and is expanding services with 28 heart hubs.
And because we have offered and are providing almost 4 times more funding, it means that not only will there be treatment for mental health and addictions, but there will also be supports given for primary care, for supportive housing.
Some advocates say harm reduction services don't need to be taken away to ramp up treatment.
Treatment is not the panacea. If it was, we would see the outcomes of that. We would have seen a reduction in overdose deaths because of treatment, because it's always existed, always been funded, always been the thing that people are pushing people towards. And yet we don't see that because people are going to use the toxic supply, and the toxic supply is killing them.
Fentanyl and related substances were found in more than 80% of deaths, with prescription benzodiazepines in 45%, a sharp increase compared to 2023. The overall decrease giving some optimism.
Some degree of hope, but still overwhelmingly large number of people. So it's tough to know what it will mean in the long term.
Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
One person is in hospital after a carbon monoxide leak prompted the evacuation of a North York apartment building this morning. Emergency crews were called to the low-rise on Keele Street near Shepherd Avenue West around 4 a.m. A woman was experiencing symptoms of concern, and testing confirmed high levels of carbon monoxide on the premises. EMS said one patient was taken to hospital in serious but non-life-threatening condition. Toronto Fire said the odorless gas was likely coming from the basement. They shut down the building's boiler and called an Enbridge to isolate the issue. After airing out the building, officials gave the all clear and residents were let back in around noon.
It's quiet at Queen's Park tonight. Today was the last day of the legislative session.
But it was a busy one and included the passing of a contentious bill. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris reports.
It was a whirlwind session that ended with an exclamation point with contentious legislation.
Bill 5 is going to bring prosperity, especially to our First Nations community.
That law allows the government to designate special economic zones where provincial and municipal laws can be ignored, though the Premier won't specify which.
It's not, the same thing for every situation. And when we feel that we need to speed things up, we'll speed things up.
Doug Ford intends to designate Northern Ontario's Ring of Fire one of these zones as quickly as possible. The opposition wants him to pump the brakes.
Don't raise the boiling point.
This government has shown that they're here for nothing other than a power grab.
Facing calls to resign, the Minister of Indigenous Affairs was away from Queen's Park, kick-starting conversations.
The government has said we're going to keep consulting meaningfully, and we, over the course of the coming months, are going to be doing a lot of that heavy lifting.
The NDP leader says the government has frittered away the goodwill and unity the session began with.
Sowing division, sowing uncertainty, and now we are approaching what I'm afraid may be a summer of chaos.
First Nations angered and hurt by Bill 5 have promised to push back in the courts and on the land with possible blockades of rail lines and major highways.
The police will deal with it if it happens, but I really hope that doesn't happen.
The focus has been on spurring economic growth as a counterweight to U.S. tariffs. Behind the scenes, the Premier says the Prime Minister and Trump administration have been closing in on a deal.
They're right at the brink. They're working hard around the clock.
Ford wants an agreement in a matter of days.
If they don't, we have to come out guns a-blazing.
Repeating a call to match America's 50% steel and aluminum tariffs.
Canada's trading relationship with the U.S. could look very different when MPPs return to Queen's Park. That won't happen until October 20th. The government says they need that time away from the legislature to put their agenda into action. At Queen's Park, Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Like the Premier, Canada's steel sector is urging Ottawa to match those 50% tariffs sooner than later. Today, the industry minister met with steel company CEOs, workers, and labor leaders in Ottawa.
We're in solution mode. Our goal is to make sure that we are there to support the sector at the same time where we know we have to have a stronger domestic sector. When I say domestic sector, I mean that we need to create jobs at home here right now. And that's why it's important that Canadians support our major project bill that is coming up.
There was no announcement about any concrete tariff retaliation. The Prime Minister has said the government will need some time to craft a response as it examines different scenarios. The steel industry says the duties could have catastrophic consequences. Industry representatives who attended the meeting are expected to speak with reporters this evening or tomorrow.
Still to come tonight, reflecting on the legacy of Canada's first astronaut in space. Students remember Marc Garneau at the Toronto school that bears his name. The bodies of 2 Israeli-American hostages taken in the Hamas-led attack on October 7, 2023 have been recovered from southern Gaza, and one of them was a Canadian citizen. Israel says the remains of Judy Weinstein-Haggai and her husband Gadi Haggai were recovered overnight in a special operation by the Army and the Shin Bet Internal Security Agency. They're now back in Israel. Judy Weinstein was born in the U.S. but moved to Canada at the age of 3. Prime Minister Marc released a statement today. It reads in part, Ms. Weinstein was a mother, a grandmother, a teacher, and a mentor who dedicated her life to guiding others with empathy, charity, and humanity. As the family grieves the unimaginable loss of both Ms. Weinstein and her husband, Gadi Haggai, who was murdered in that same horrific attack, the return of their remains is a time to begin to heal and to rest. We mourn with her family. May her memory be a blessing. 56 hostages are still being held in Gaza. At least 20 are believed to still be alive. More than 30,000 people in Saskatchewan and Manitoba have been forced to flee their homes because of the wildfires there. More than 18,000 from Manitoba alone.
Heading into the weekend, we're seeing fires that are holding, cooler temperatures hopefully on the way a little bit, and generally less activity in overall. We're continuing to deepen our control lines on the firefighting side and value protection efforts. Still many fires of note that Kristen will update you on as well. This is truly an all-hands-on-deck situation.
Manitoba has 27 active blazes, a third of which are out of control. But firefighters and the weather are keeping the fires from overrunning communities for now. In Saskatchewan, the major evacuation zones are in and around La Ronge, where 7,000 have been forced out. In northern Alberta, about 1,300 residents of Swan Hills were allowed to return to their homes today.
Canadian exports plummeted in April as U.S. tariffs hammered demand for Canadian goods, with the country posting its largest merchandise trade deficit on record. Statistics Canada says some of the decline is due to a strengthening Canadian dollar and the push to export goods before tariffs went into effect. Here's CTV's John Benavelli-Rao.
When it comes to comparing how much merchandise was brought into Canada versus exported out last month, the difference has never been so stark, with that trade deficit growing to just over $7 billion in April, compared to just over $2 billion in March. Reflecting in large part a plunge in overall exports being sent to the U.S., which tumbled nearly 16% month over month.
We're looking right at the heart of the storm of tariffs, and they showed a huge drop in our exports, a drop in two-way trade.
The fallout from the slew of tariffs imposed by the U.S. president on cars, steel, aluminum, and other items was just partly to blame for the drop in exports. So too was the flood of goods that poured into the U.S. ahead of the tariffs, which built up inventories. Exports of autos to the U.S. falling 23% in April, while exports of consumer goods fell 15%.
These are fully automatic machines.
Toronto-based Ultraform Manufacturing makes components for auto parts and has seen such a drop in demand, its employees have had to switch to work sharing, for now at least avoiding layoffs.
So we definitely had a drop of almost 35% in our business. And we're trying to figure it out, what is the best way to mitigate that drop.
The value of energy exports also dropped, but that was due to lower oil prices, while overall exports fell to their lowest level in 2 years. And some expect things to continue to deteriorate, with pressure mounting to reach a trade deal and companies looking for certainty.
Hopefully we can get back to an agreement that is respected by both countries and so that companies know the rules of the game.
If there was a silver lining, it was that Canadian exports to countries outside of the U.S. did grow by about 3%, which could reflect efforts to better broaden export markets. John Vanavelli-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
We have an update tonight on the labor dispute between Canada Post and the union representing 55,000 of its workers. CUPW has filed an unfair labor practice complaint to the Canada Industrial Relations Board. It alleges the Crown Corporation is bargaining directly with members and is interfering with the union's exclusive bargaining rights, as well as trying to discredit its reputation. Canada Post spokeswoman says the corporation rejects the allegations in their entirety and insists employers are allowed to express views and communicate with employees during collective bargaining, but has at no time negotiated directly with them.
The head of NATO says the alliance is close to accepting a U.S. demand that member countries boost their defense spending to 5% of the GDP. Ottawa has not yet even reached the current 2% threshold. Canada's defense minister attended a NATO meeting in Brussels today.
Our government is already very hard at work. There will be more to say very soon as we look to revisit and review our expenditures domestically, continentally, and internationally. We are under no illusions about the scale of the challenges ahead.
We need our allies here in Europe and in Canada to step up even more, to step up and take the lead, to recognize the defense of the continent is the core mission. So 5% is our message, and we will deliver that.
Today's gathering was the last major NATO meeting before the Leaders' Summit later this month. That is when members are expected to agree to a massive hike in their defense spending goals. Canada spent 1.33% of its GDP on defense in 2023 and was projected to reach 1.45% for 2024.
We turn to tributes to Canada's first astronaut in space.
Marc is being remembered as a trailblazer in science and later as a public servant in politics. Today, CTV's Scott Lightfoot visited the school that bears Garneau's name.
Outside of Marc Garneau Collegiate Institute today, the flags have been lowered in honor of the man for whom the school is named.
He talked a lot about how important it was for him to be seen as a role model and an inspiration for kids.
The school's principal says Garneau visited many times over the years.
What happens at nighttime? Cameras can't see at nighttime.
As recently as last June.
He'd do presentations with students and staff. He even on occasion would sneak into a class and pretend to be a supply teacher. And the kids and the staff would get a great chuckle when they found out he was actually Canada's first astronaut.
The former Overlea High School was renamed in honor of Canada's first astronaut in October of 1987. More than 35 years later, a large model of the Challenger space shuttle from Garneau's first trip to space hangs in a main hallway. And not far away, a room decorated with memorabilia of not just Garneau, but Canada's space program as a whole.
It's so important that the next generation of space explorers see that there is a real and legitimate pathway towards supporting the space industry and even going to space.
Several students who were decades from being born when Garneau became the first Canadian in space spoke about how he inspired them.
The way he explained how science is all about service really inspired me to want to go into aerospace engineering.
Grade 10 student Sarah Hassan says she has an autographed poster of Garneau on her bedroom wall and remembers meeting him last year.
I asked him if he had any tips for anyone trying to go into the space sector, and he said to really just have a passion for what you want to do.
And what the school plans to do is carry on the legacy of the man it's named after. Scott Lightfoot, CTV News.
Still to come, what's the worst road in Ontario? The CAA has come out with its annual list. We'll share the rankings after the break.
Another warm day, but we didn't quite get to that 30-degree mark like we did yesterday. The hot spot today, Sault Ste. Marie. Now, as we make our way in towards the day tomorrow, get ready to kick off your weekend. We're back at a seasonal point, but still contending with some of that wildfire smoke. Coming up, we'll have a full look at your long-range forecast. And stay with us. We have another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
The CAA is out with the results of its annual survey ranking Ontario's worst roads.
Participants nominated more than 2,400 roads from more than 200 different municipalities, citing frustrations around potholes, lengthy repairs, congestion, and construction, among other concerns. And it's likely not an honor the city was looking for, but the survey ranked roads in Hamilton in both first and second place. For the second year in a row, Aberdeen Avenue grabbed top spot, followed by Barton Street East. County Road 49 in Prince Edward County was in third, while Eglinton Avenue West in Toronto and Hurontario Street in Mississauga round out the top 5. Those last 2 roads have been dealing with LRT-related construction for years now. CAA says the ranking gives road users the chance to express their concerns in a coordinated way.
So more people are, wanting their voice heard. It can be very difficult to sort of get infrastructure fixed on your own. And that is why we offer this program. It's to get people's voices to come together, to give a picture to government about some of the pain points they're experiencing as they're going about their daily lives.
The Gardner Expressway and Shepherd Avenue West also made the list of the top 10 worst roads in the province.
And if you're out driving on one of those terrible roads tonight, it might actually be slower than usual. Limited visibility because of the haze in the air that's a result of that wildfire smoke drifting over the GTA.
I've driven on many of those roads, and I will say Barton Street East is my pick for the worst one. It's hard to drive on.
Ooh, Jess?
A lot of them. I've been a lifelong commuter, just my entire adult life. So it just, if I can take transit or walk, I usually do because I just want to avoid all of it. And you can't avoid all the roads, and you can't avoid the weather today. I mean, it's just one of those things where we've been watching the smoke, kind of that haze in the air, where you see the sunshine there, but it's not quite brilliantly bright, and that's because of this wildfire smoke, and it's going to linger throughout the rest of our day today and into the end of the work and school week. So something to keep in mind if you do have any breathing challenges. We are under an alert as well because of the wildfire smoke that stretches almost from coast to coast to coast as we head throughout the day today and in towards your Friday morning. So keep that in mind. It is going to impact you. Now, we've seen the wildfire smoke kind of lingering off and on throughout the day. This is from a little earlier this afternoon. So between the cloud cover from this morning after all the rain and then the leftover smoke, it really wasn't, there wasn't a break today as we made our way throughout our Thursday. At least temperature-wise, it was a relatively seasonal day after such a hot day yesterday. But the breaks in the cloud deck that we did get, you didn't really notice because the cloud cover and the smoke was still there. We're sitting at 21 here in the city right now. We're at 17 through Windsor, 24 in Timmins. So that ridge in the jet stream where you see that kind of orange line there, it's quite high. So we're pretty warm almost right across the entire province as we get through the day today and into the day tomorrow. Sitting at 16 tonight, we should be at 13. Everybody kind of in a very seasonal range. A little cloud cover, a light wind, all things considered a nice night minus the haze in the air. Into the day tomorrow, spot on for seasonal for most, a little warmer towards Goderich, Owen Sound, Parry Sound and Bancroft. But for the most part, we are at or just above where we should be. Still under that widespread air quality statement. Again, if you have any breathing challenges or you have people in your life who are vulnerable to this, keep that in mind and limit your time outdoors if possible. Again, the smoke stretches really from the prairies all the way across northern Ontario into southern Ontario and portions of Quebec. A little break over the weekend, but getting in towards the beginning of next week, that smoke is set to return. The showers we had early on this morning, those pushed out. Behind it, just that cloud cover out there. So overall, not a terrible day, at least weather-wise, when it comes to the conditions and driving. Timing things up for the rest of the evening, really not all that bad. A lot of that cloud cover pushes out. A little returns into the start of the day tomorrow, but late afternoon, early evening. We do get some sunny breaks. How much of that sun we're going to see because of the haze, we'll have to wait until we get in towards tomorrow afternoon. Throughout your weekend, though, the cloud cover will start to push out. The haze, we get a little bit of a break, so it's a beautiful weekend. There are tons of festivals. I hear there's a grilled cheese festival going on in the city. We've also got Due West Fest. There's tons. We're getting into festival season, so if you can get out and enjoy it, lots of options. Temperature-wise, again, we're very seasonal through your Friday, your Saturday, your Sunday, at least for our daytime highs. Overnight, a little warmer than we should be, but still within a range that is considered normal. As we head in towards your Monday, watching for some scattered showers just to kind of cool things off as we head into a brand new week. A lot of kids wrapping up school or exams, so maybe a good day to be inside and continue to study. As we head in towards your Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it gets warmer and warmer and warmer. And as we head in towards the end of next week, potentially looking at another 30-degree day. We'll see if that 27 gets a little warmer, but that's before you factor in any kind of humidex. As we head into these next couple of days, it's really sunny out there. Consider sun protection and hydration, especially if you work outside or you're planning on spending any time outdoors. Hopefully this helps you plan as we step in towards the weekend. Natalie, I'll send things back over to you.
Okay, thanks, Jess.
Thanks.
Well, the TTC board officially approved the appointment of the transit system's new CEO this morning. Mandeep Lally is taking over the top job following Rick Leary's departure last summer, and as the TTC prepares to begin testing on the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. Mayor Olivia Chow highlighted Lally's experience in subway operations at New York's MTA and Transport for London. TTC Chair Jamal Myers said Lally's candidacy stood out for his clarity of vision.
When we asked him what his goal for the TTC was, he said, without missing a beat, to make the TTC the most reliable transit system in North America. As a lifelong TTC rider, this was music to my ears. It's what every Torontonian wants to hear because reliability is the cornerstone of customer experience and safety.
Lally says he's aware of long-standing issues like slow zones on the subway and bunching on surface routes, but he is planning to spend more time on the system to familiarize himself with Toronto Transit.
I have an ethos of, in order to understand the problem, to fix the problem, I've got to see the problem myself, so we can collectively work through what the solution is. And we may not be able to fix everything at once, but we've got to prioritise in respect to risk, prioritise in respect to safety, prioritise in terms of be transparent of what we can do within what time frame. So I'll be gauging that from my discussions with staff, customers, and then feeling the system for myself.
Lally officially takes over as the head of the TTC on July 7th.
Coming up, Bell Media is unveiling their fall lineup of shows in the CTV Upfronts. We'll have more after the break.
While summer is just around the corner, CTV is already looking ahead to the fall.
Bell Media is sharing what it has in the works during its upfront presentation. And it includes members of the CTV Toronto news team. They're usually here anchoring from the news desk, but they were walking the red carpet this afternoon. CTV News is a division of Bell Media, and today the network unveiled the shows returning for a new season and the new shows for you to watch. CTV's Andrea Case reports.
Care to put money on it?
On what? Who trains a better rookie?
Melissa O'Neill first leapt to fame as the winner of Canadian Idol. That was 20 years ago. For the last 7 seasons, the Calgary native has played the role of Lucy Chen on the CTV drama The Rookie.
Even when I was, when I moved to Los Angeles, I had my manager who I signed with. He was like, all right, come to LA, let's audition for stuff. I was like, I don't have a job down there. I'm not going where I don't have a job. You're crazy. And then I booked The Rookie like a month after that conversation. And so I've very much kind of, you know, I've not had money. I've grown up in a house where you don't have money, so you don't turn down a good job when it comes around. And so I've just kind of taken jobs when they come, and I've been so grateful to be able to experience so much of this industry, whether it's music or theater or Broadway in New York and coming back into television. Like it's a really rich environment to be in, filled with so many creatives behind the camera, in front of the camera, behind the camera. Like, it's so cool. So I love it. I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Also returning to the CTV lineup, Sullivan's Crossing. After fame on the teen drama One Tree Hill, lead actor Chad Michael Murray knew what he wanted to do next.
You know, you go to the grocery store and you see your pictures on a magazine and it's got this blurb or whatever about you. And so I think it can be really difficult, but you just gotta learn to navigate things, and now I just like to keep my head down, do my job, treat people with love, grace, and that's really what it's about for me. I get to make people happy. That's like, how cool is that?
Not in Hollywood anymore, huh?
And who says you can never go home again? Tom Green has left Los Angeles and bought the farm, literally. This property outside of Ottawa is his home and now the location of his new show, Funny Farm.
I went to broadcasting school at Algonquin College, and I learned how to make videos, and then we started the Tom Green Show. And so it's kind of what I'm doing now, just with Bell Media and Crave, and we're making a show, like you said, on our own terms with the help of a whole bunch of great people, and we're going to do a show from the farm that's going to show off not just this cool, crazy lifestyle that I've created with my donkey and my mule and my horses, but also Canada and the beauty of living on a Canadian farm, and I'm very proud of, you know, being Canadian, and I want to show the world what it's all about up here.
Andrea Case, CTV News.
After part 1 of the Wicked movie had a huge response at the box office, the musical adaptation is preparing to return to the big screen.
It's time for both of us to fly.
The official trailer is now out for part 2 of Wicked. Wicked for Good once again stars Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande as a pair of witches who find themselves on opposite sides of a fight for the future of the Land of Oz. The musical story was, of course, inspired by the world of The Wizard of Oz. The Wicked sequel hits theaters November 21st, and that's not the only musical movie out with its first trailer.
Jennifer Lopez takes on the title role in Kiss of the Spider-Woman. It's based on the Tony-winning 1990s musical of the same name. The movie tells the story of two men imprisoned under a military dictatorship and the cinematic daydreams one of them would conjure to escape reality. Kiss of the Spider-Woman is out October 11th.
Sticking with Broadway, the official Harry Potter play is preparing to welcome a familiar face to its cast.
Scared Potter.
Tom Felton is set to reprise his role from the original movies. He'll play Draco Malfoy in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, starting in November. The show is set 19 years after the events of the book and film series. This will mark the first time a member of the Harry Potter film cast joined the stage production.
Rock band Talking Heads are celebrating a major anniversary with a new music video.
Psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est?
Saoirse Ronan stars in the first ever video for the band's hit song Psycho Killer. The video shows her going through her daily life and behaving increasingly erratic. The Talking Heads band members themselves don't appear, but they say they love how the video goes against expectations and isn't literal, violent, or obvious. It was released today to mark 50 years since Talking Heads' first live show.
Still to come on CTV News, the Edmonton Oilers draw first blood in the Stanley Cup Finals. We'll hear from the players after the break.
I've known this place just like a nice place to go with every day.
Concerning, I walk alone through this park often.
Updating our top stories now, Toronto police have issued a public safety alert after a woman was sexually assaulted in High Park last night. Investigators say the victim suffered non-life-threatening injuries. They have had a heavy police presence at the park today as they search for a male suspect.
I heard about that. That's so sad.
Some scary moments in the Black Creek and Weston area this afternoon. Police say a 6-year-old boy fell from the 10th floor of a high-rise on Humber Boulevard. This happened around 2 o'clock, and the boy was rushed to hospital by paramedics with serious injuries. He's listed in critical condition this evening as police investigate the circumstances surrounding the fall.
There were other comorbidities associated with this child's passing.
And public health officials say a premature infant infected with measles has died in southwestern Ontario. They say the baby contracted the virus from their mother, who was unvaccinated, although other medical factors played a role. Health experts say getting immunized remains the best protection, with nearly 1,800 confirmed cases and 250 suspected cases in Ontario this year.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
Canadian stocks traded a near record high today, boosted by a surge in silver. B&M Bloomberg's Andrew Bell has the details.
Hello there. Toronto's benchmark stock index rose to just over 26,340 today, closing in on Tuesday's record high, as a surge in silver prices sent miners of that metal higher yet again. Silver hit the highest in 13 years, jumping 3% to more than $35 US an ounce, as investors seek safety in precious metals from trade conflict and US political turmoil. In Toronto, shares in First Majestic Silver jumped 15%, and Endeavour Silver was up 8%. Gold, the metal's big brother, has climbed more than 40% in the past 12 months. That tops a gain of about 20% for silver. But the latter metal has been boosted lately by inflows into exchange-traded funds, a simple way to buy into precious metals. Silver is widely used in applications such as solar panels, and the global market is headed for a 5th year in deficit, according to the Silver Institute, an industry group. The Canadian dollar edged higher today to change hands at 73.16 US cents. West Texas Intermediate oil gained about 52 cents US a barrel to trade at $63.37. Our latest fix on Western Canadian Select oil has it down 85 cents to $52.49 a barrel. And the TSX ended at 26,342.29, up just over 13 points. Those are your business headlines. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Dozens of people braved the rain and lined up downtown last night for a chance to get their hands on the Nintendo Switch 2. Gaming and electronics stores, including this EB Games location on Yonge Street, opened their doors at midnight to gaming fans as the Switch 2 went on sale. The Switch 2 is an upgrade to its 8-year-old predecessor with new social features meant to draw players into online gaming.
Better performance, better graphics, more storage. Yeah, a lot of third-party developers will now come over to the Switch 2, so that's more exciting.
I came here like at 4 p.m. for 10 p.m. Yeah.
So Switch 2.
It
was worth it to stay out in the rain and the heat?
Totally. So actually, I'm from El Salvador. I flew to Canada just to be here.
So you came all the way from Salvador?
Yeah.
Just to get this game?
Totally.
Early demand for the Switch 2 has been high, with pre-orders selling out almost immediately and a few units up for grabs at launch.
In sports, the Toronto Blue Jays played a matinee at Rogers Centre today, looking for the series win against Philadelphia.
Heineman with a fly ball, shallow left field, and dropped off the glove of Turner. And it bounces towards the corner, and 2 more runs will score.
The Jays' bats were booming this afternoon. They racked up 8 runs by the 3rd inning and went on to win 9-1. Toronto will be in Minnesota tomorrow, beginning a 9-game road trip that also includes another series against the Phillies.
A 34-year-old from Richmond Hill is on the leaderboard at the RBC Canadian Open.
He's a hometown kid, folks. He's going to have big galleries cheering him on.
Taylor Pendrith is in the clubhouse at -5, tied for 8th place. The first round of the tournament began this morning at TPC Toronto at Osprey Valley in Caledon. Winnipeg native Nick Taylor is also had a good day, finishing at -4. They're among 24 Canadians in the field. Last year's winner Robert McIntyre has returned. So has Rory McIlroy, who is looking for his 3rd title. Well, the Stanley Cup final is off to a roaring start.
Fans were treated to a back-and-forth thriller last night that needed overtime to decide the winner.
McDavid, it falls, Leon Draisaitl, Game 1 hero.
Leon Draisaitl had 2 goals, including the OT winner. It capped off an Oilers comeback after Florida had scored 3 straight goals to take a 3-1 lead. Connor McDavid finished the night with 2 assists, his 4th straight multi-point game. Today, some of the players reflected on the game and what is shaping up to be a very intense series.
It was fun, for sure. Like you said, it was high energy. I think, obviously, these are the 2 best teams in the NHL going at it. So it's competitive. You're trying to win every inch on the ice, and tight margins out there, but just kind of playing in the moment.
We've been through, way worse than just that yesterday. We can be better. We can adjust a few things and, come out tomorrow and try to get a win here and get some momentum going back home.
Game 2 of last year's Stanley Cup final rematch goes tomorrow in Edmonton. The series shifts to Sunrise, Florida on Monday.
Tonight, setting a new toxic beauty standard.
To reap the benefits that they see of being more attractive.
How the dangerous online trend known as looks maxing is harming the health of young men. Later on CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special hello to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Welcome back. Reaching for the moon.
A Tokyo-based company attempted to put its lander on the lunar surface today, but did it work? The craft was launched in January from Florida. Today it dropped out of lunar orbit as planned, and everything seemed to be going well. But the craft fell silent during descent, and more than 2 hours later, there was still no communication with the lander. Its fate is unknown, and efforts are underway to establish contact.
An out-of-this-world story, and maybe an out-of-this-world forecast, because it looks a little otherworldly when you look outside, seeing all that haze in the air. We are still contending with wildfire smoke, but the good news is there's a little bit of relief on the way this weekend. Right now, just dealing with some lingering cloud cover out there. Temperature-wise, it's comfortable, 21 feeling like 24, and we're holding on at or near the seasonal mark as we step into this second half of our day. If you're heading out early to a cottage this weekend, it is fabulous, but again, still seeing that bit of a haze throughout the day tomorrow. But as we head into the next stretch of days, it is fairly sunny and seasonal. We just won't look at the rain on Monday, but we need the rain just a little bit. But I'll send things back over to you guys.
Okay, we'll be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, and I'll be back with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching. Have a good night.
Night.